A heartbreaking moment for Jordan Weber.
Oh, she was so sad. This Olympic rule makes it so that the 24 gymnasts who will compete in the final aren't necessarily the highest scoring athletes overall. And joining us now is Mark Lee with EP Athletics to talk about this Olympic rule. And Mark, not only are you with EP Athletics, but you have been an Olympic gymnast coach in '88, correct?
That's right, in Seoul.
So you've been there, you've done that. This is not a new rule, is it?
No, it's not a new rule. And it is actually, despite what has been said in Bella's rant with Bob Costas, it's a good rule. It's a very fair rule.
So Bella Caroli, you mentioned the interview. He was very concerned that I think Jordan finished like 4th overall, yes, and yet she's not going to be able to move forward. But you think it's a fair rule. Bella did not. Why do you think it's a fair rule?
It's a fair rule because the Olympics is a gathering of many, many nations. If you limited this sport or any other sport to just the absolute top athletes and only competed the top athletes, you'd have a few Chinese, a few Americans, a few Russians, and a couple Romanians, and everybody else would be excluded. And then the other countries would not be allowed the exposure that is necessary to keep their grassroots programs alive. Gymnastics would die if they changed this rule.
So you believe this is a way to preserve gymnastics around the world?
Oh, without a doubt. And you always will have a dark horse that will come in and be able to break in. They'll get great exposure for their country. They become national heroes when they go home. And I think also the bottom line is the top kids are going to win anyway. If you did it the other way, you'd have the same result as far as the medals are concerned. The kids that are going to win the golds and silvers and bronze, they are the same kids whether you had the lower tier kids in it or not.
Okay.
But this allows the other countries to present their athletes to the world and go home heroes and build their grassroots gymnastics programs.
So you mentioned that this is not a new rule as far as taking the top 2 from each team, but there is a bit of a tweak to the rule about the scores, what you can keep and what you used to be able to throw away. Explain that.
That's right. In the qualification procedure, they had 4 athletes compete, and they were able to drop a score. And so now that you're in team finals, they only allow 3 athletes to compete for the team. All 3 scores count. I mean, this is for all the marbles. Every routine
Does that
is so
kind
important.
of ratchet up the pressure?
You know, you would think so, but not necessarily. The kids are no longer competing for themselves. They are now competing for the USA, and they're competing for each other. And with female athletes, it really takes a lot of the pressure off because they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for someone else and other people, their country, their teammates. And so they'll move on and they'll understand that little extra pressure that they can't miss, but they're accustomed to that. They go into every meet like that.
Right.
Yeah, they go in ready to give it their all no matter what.
But they'll be giving it their all for others rather than themselves. And I'll tell you what, there is more pressure for these kids when they're doing it for themselves.
I can see how that would be. Well, you've certainly given a lot of insight into this. You've changed my mind a little bit. I was outraged.
She was,
I was outraged.
as were a lot of people, a little miffed about this.
But I can see how it would make a difference. You want to make sure those teams stay strong.
Yep,
throughout
for
the world.
sure.
So you're with EP Athletics. Is there classes going on all throughout the year that
Throughout
people
the
can
year,
sign up their
yep,
kids?
in the Westwood Mall.
Okay,
Very
fantastic.
good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.